The following podcast contains coarse language and adult themes. This week on the show, we're loving lasagna and hating Mondays, chatting the Garfield Amazing Spider-Man and its sequel that I bet you didn't know was actually subtitled The Rise of Electro. It's part 2 of our Legacy of the Spider-Man series. I'm Regs.
And I'm Addie.
And this is the Film Addicts podcast. Hey folks, and welcome back to the Film Addicts podcast. So happy to have you here. I'm chatting with Addie. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, sir. How are you?
I'm dandy. I love your shirt.
Thank you so much, and I love the Deadpool.
Yeah, I got my Deadpool taco hoodie on at the moment, which is pretty dope. It's a nice lazy day at home. And for those of you listening probably on decent headphones, you might be able to hear a little bit of work going on outside. That's right. Fucking Oscorp's turned up and they're building a goddamn tower out the front of my house to fucking make all sorts of goblin gliders and shit. So spiders that give everyone superpowers. It's bananas. But so apologies for the construction noise. But yeah, welcome back, part 2 of the Legacy of the Spider-Man. We are talking the Andrew Garfield, not the cat Garfield, sequel film and its sequel. Which, yeah, when I was at the Spider-Thon a few weeks ago, because we're not going anywhere, wait for the next movie, you're watching all the credits, and fuck me if at the end of that film it doesn't come up and say Amazing Spider-Man: The Rise of Electro, and that was the name of the film. Did you know that? I
did not.
Nobody did. I think the only person who knew that was the editor. He's like, I'm going to pop this in at the end and give my 2 cents. Because there's been a lot of Rise movies. There was a Rise of the Silver Surfer also, and that one didn't do too well.
And there was Dawn of the Justice League, or Dawn of Justice.
Things rise, things dawn, justice, spider people. It's all good, you know? Yeah. But before we do get into what, interestingly enough, my relationship with Addie, my relationship with you, sir, has actually made these films my favourite Spider-Mans. And also and we'll get into it, but the saturation of the MCU connected cinematic universe stuff that has gotten so out of control now. It's like how you breed cockroaches to feed your lizard. They just go ape shit. And my business partner Dan will get that joke, but he's got a lizard and he breeds cockroaches to feed it. It's incredible. It's such a great operation. But that has nothing to do with anything apart from bugs. But that kind of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it has kind of taken over the idea, a new construct of what we expect our media to be, especially when it comes to this genre shit. And you go back to those 2 films and it's nice that they're just kind of by himself. But anyway, we'll get into it, and I'm very interested to hear your kind of previous with it as well, because these are your Spideys, aren't they?
Yep, this is the episode that I was looking forward to the most. Yeah, because I'm scared and excited. This is my Spider-Man.
The perfect combination. I'm just thinking, the first one, as you said before, it's the 10th anniversary this year of the release of the original Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man.
Which is funny because it didn't dawn on me, but in a few months' time, I'm going to be 40, which is awesome. And the year I turned 30, this had come out, and I remember my 30th birthday. How fucking sad is this? I was still drinking then, and I just got drunk and watched this movie. And it was horribly depressing. But the movie's great. Fucking lizards and shit. It's awesome. But we will get into, first we'll talk about, yourself and your kind of previous with all this. I'm interested to hear that the most. But before that, as we always do you want to do the nerd news?
Let's do some nerd news.
We must do it. And here we are, back again with the Film Addicts podcast nerd news. Just a few little items that I thought was interesting that popped out to me in the cycle of news this week. The Moon Knight writers of Moon Knight, the MCU TV series that we did an episode on, actually considered bringing back old Steve Rogers as a cameo. I don't know how they would pull that off.
Yeah.
Under what circumstance would Chris Evans return? Would they Tarkin him or who's a more famous Star Wars person who passed away and they did a digital reconstruction of?
Carrie Fisher?
Yeah. Would they do that? Because I mean, they could. They probably. I would imagine in these Marvel cinematic times, you sign away your likeness, so they could absolutely do it.
Yeah. I mean, they're starting to do that with Stan Lee as well. Where now they're going to have Stan Lee cameo in every MCU movie, hopefully. Which I don't know why they did that like after he passed away. But I'm happy that they're doing that now. But yeah, I mean, they literally have your whole body scanned for literally anything that they want to do.
Mm. Even toys and things like that. Sex dolls.
Not sex dolls, just toys.
Tell me they haven't thought about it. Maybe not with Stan Lee, but what the fuck are they doing? Like, hang on. They're going to put Stan Lee in movies now digitally. Just leave. He's dead. He was 146 years old when he died. Just leave him be. He's done enough.
That is true. He's done enough.
But I mean, that has nothing to do with Moon Knight or Captain America, really. But yeah, I don't understand where that would have fit. Like, where he would have. At what point does he make sense in that thing? Unless it's maybe a flashback or something, or I don't know.
But flashback, like how? Or at least what we got, it doesn't make sense in that story. Yeah. Maybe they met in like the fucking plane.
Yeah, maybe. He's dead and he's on the boat with the hippo.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, that could make sense. But also, like, Captain America is white. I don't think he believes in things outside of Christianity.
The spiritual afterlife. Yeah. I mean, he does, he sort of never really leans one way or another, but, lower middle class, well, not middle class, like working class, Brooklyn 1920 born kind of thing. Yeah, he would have been Catholic, if nothing else. But yeah, there you go. And speaking of gods and gods among us, Thor himself, Chris Hemsworth, is huge. No, he is. He's massive, but he also does have plans to return as Thor in more movies after Love and Thunder. And, I think he kind of found his with the teaming up with Taika, and we've said our piece about the Thor Love and Thunder. We haven't seen it yet, so we can't really comment any further than that. But I think he finding Taika and having that sort of reinvention of that character moving forward, I think he's like, you know what, I've got more to say with this because I never got to where I needed to. Tony, fucking idiot. Robert Downey had to have a beautiful arc for that. His character. Chris Hemsworth had a beautiful arc for his character. Scarlett had a beautiful arc for her character. Got to come back and do one more punt at it. I think he's like, you know what? I've got a couple more in me because I've got more to say with this character. And God bless him.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fucking rad if like the new Avengers film, which I don't know if this is part of nerd news and I'm shitting on the panel that you have, but
how dare
Captain America 4.
I give a shit. It's fine.
Captain America 4 is going to be like a mini Avengers film. I don't know. That's what I've read. Captain America 4.
Right. So the one that Anthony
with Sam Wilson.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, whatever. I know they're doing a Thunderbolts series, which is all the villains. Whether that's a series or a movie, I don't know. So that'll be interesting. That kind of, you bring some avengings in there as well. But I guess we'll see. Thor opens this Thursday in or maybe it's already open. It's either this
comes
Thursday
out
or
6th. We're recording this on 4th, so it comes out. Yeah, Wednesday or Thursday.
It'll be here. So, well, that's great. Good on him. And as we're talking about Avengers, and I like to have links between these things. No, I don't. That's an absolute lie. These just happen to be in this order. Chris Pratt has come out and said, because he's going to be voicing Mario.
Yeah.
In the Super Mario Brothers cartoon. Whatever. Maybe it's not a cartoon. Maybe it's a live action. No, it's not live action. It's animated, definitely. But cool. Okay. And he's come out and said that the voice that he's doing for Mario is unlike anything you've heard in the Mario world. Quote, I hope by saying that, what he means is it won't be super fucking racist. Or stereotypical at best.
Yes.
Stereotypical. Like, it's okay. A couple little hoo-hoo and like jumping sounds, like that's fine in the video game. But as soon as you just turn the corner and start doing a stereotype, like Chris Pratt, I guarantee you, is absolutely not an Italian man, okay? He is definitely not even close to an Italian man. So we've got to be careful here. I was actually just listening to, again, I talk about it a lot, the We Hate Movies podcast. I was listening to an older episode of theirs, and they were talking about Karate Kid 2, which is a baller-ass film. But everybody in that film is an Asian person, apart from Ralph Macchio, obviously, but it's set in Okinawa. And there's 3 characters who have big roles. There's like 2 villains. There's Chosen and Sato, who are the bad guys, and then Mr. Miyagi. Now, Pat Morita had lived in the United States for long enough that he didn't have an American accent. That he had an American accent. He might have even been born there. I'm not 100% sure. Sorry, but in the movie, he's doing what would be deemed a stereotypical Asian accent for that period of time, right? And then you also have Sato and Chosen, who were I think Sato, the actor who played Sato, was actually Korean, but they all had the Japanese type accent in their English speaking as well. Knowing that it's inappropriate to do that as 4 white guys, the We Hate Movies podcast end up doing other impressions. Okay. So instead of Mr. Miyagi doing that voice, Mr. Miyagi is going to be played by the guy who was Columbo, or Chosen's going to be Alan Alda, and Sato is going to be Gary Busey. It's just a really good way to get around it. So Chris Pratt, all I'm saying is, when you think about your Mario voice, maybe just steer away from what we're all expecting. Okay, buddy. Best of luck.
Yeah.
I don't know who asked for that movie anyway. And this I'm really excited about because I fucking love this movie. Top Gun Maverick has made $1 billion. Money, money, cash money. That's me. That's me. Making it rain for Maverick. I really like the film. It's really goofy in places and cheesy in places, but in all the best ways. And it's also the highest grossing film of Tom Cruise's career, which is a pretty cool thing to get to when you're fucking 60.
Yeah, he turned 60 yesterday.
Was it? Yeah, and he turned 60 yesterday. And then today, there was an image put online of him hanging from a fucking Cessna or something, like an old school plane. Like, here's Tom Cruise on the set of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2, just hanging from a plane at 60 years old. Are you kidding me? I couldn't do that now.
That's him celebrating his birthday, dude.
Yes, that's how he does it. He gets up in the morning, he chews a bunch of glass, and he does 14 lines of cocaine, and then he gets into a car that doesn't have a roof and drives to the airport, and then he gets on a plane that's not driven by anyone. It's just filled with snakes, and and he hangs off the side of it, and then he parachutes down into an active volcano. The guy is superhuman. The closest thing to a mutant I think we'll ever get. But happy birthday, Tom.
Oh, no. Yeah. So I feel like Hugh Jackman is a mutant. He quit playing Wolverine because people were getting... people were questioning that he never ages. So Hugh Jackman is a mutant.
Sus. It is sus. He does look better and better as time goes on. Give us a call.
Just like you, my friend.
Me? Yeah, I'm kind of like a prune, in that I used to be a plum, but I'm not as juicy anymore. Hang on, I don't know where I'm going with this metaphor. Let me just figure it out here. I used to be a ripe, plump fruit, but now I'm, a little bit more shriveled and wrinkly, but I'm better for you now. I'm high in fiber, and I'll keep you regular, you know? I'll keep you regularly doing a podcast. What am I talking about? That's insane. And finally, the last nerd news story is not about me being a dehydrated fruit. It is about Roger Stern, the disc jockey in America, was on a hot mic the other day, a mic that he didn't know was on, and he was talking to someone. I don't know who it was. I didn't read that part of the story, or what the information wasn't there as far as I could find, talking about that he's involved in some way in a Doctor Doom movie.
Oh, Howard Stern?
What did I say? I said
I
Roger
don't know
Stern.
what you said.
Roger Stern.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it was Roger Sterling is the character from Mad Men. You're right. It is Howard Stern, not Roger. What a fucking idiot. Yeah, Howard Stern. And I don't know if he's going to play Doctor Doom or if he's writing it or if he's... But he was complaining about it. He was like, oh, I'm just not looking forward to it. I'm going to fucking hate it. Whatever. I'm sure the money they pay you makes it feel better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, if it's a film about Doctor Doom having a podcast with Ant-Man, then yeah, sure, have Howard Stern play Doctor Doom. But fucking hell, not that guy, man. Please, get someone else.
Yeah, I don't... Even the guy who played him in the Fantastic Four pictures would be better than that. What's his name?
Yeah. Toby...
Someone or other. Oh, yeah, or Toby Kebbell, yeah.
Yeah.
The guy who was in the original two, Julian someone, the Australian dude. Yeah, I don't know, but we're getting a Doctor Doom movie in some fashion. If not that, it's going to be fucking the Fantastic Four picture that Doctor Doom's obviously going to be in, whatever form that takes.
It's either a Fantastic Four film or we get him as a post credit scene in the Thunderbolt series of him, whatever that's going to be. Yeah.
That's probably. I just don't know why they do a standalone Doom movie without setting him up.
Yeah.
Outside of.
I mean, exactly. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's just it's an interesting gambit, Marvel. I'm not sure where you're going at the moment. I rewatched Multiverse of Madness with my fiance the other night because she hadn't seen it. She's been working like a motherfucker. So, but it dropped on Disney Plus, and she had the night off, which was a rarity. And she was like, "Let's watch this picture," and she enjoyed it and everything. But she was just kind of the same as me. She was like, "I don't know where they're all going anymore. Like, it doesn't." She's like, "No one's here. You know, you're at a party, and all the people you knew you arrived with have left." Like, what the fuck? Where's all my friends? Where's Captain America?
Yeah.
Shit? So, but anyway, enough of all that.
Just one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
I read something on the internet the other day that summed up the whole how we feel about the MCU right now perfectly. It's like we're in 7th grade and for the first time we've gotten what seems to be algebra, and we're like, what the fuck is this? Why can't we just do addition and subtraction? Like, why this?
Yeah, it's a lot. We're in the advanced. We're in maths methods of the MCU at the moment, and I'm not following it. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But I'm a prune and simple. Happy anniversary, Amazing Spider-Man, with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone and Risa Fantz and Sally Field and
Martin Sheen.
Fucking Martin Sheen, fantastic. And also somebody, Campbell Scott. We'll talk about him in a minute because it was a fantastic deleted scene that I saw recently of him from the second picture. We had a lot of deleted material, including a completely excised portion of Mary Jane, played by Shailene Woodley. And where he comes back and meets Peter at the graveyard and he didn't die, which was a very powerful scene that was taken out of the movie. And but you actually have a little bit more information about why the sequel kind of went a little bit off the rails because of Avi Arad and the Sony hack and a bunch of interesting shit went down. So, but before we get into that, I'm just going to say really quickly, I love these pictures. I think that in terms of, let's just look at what you have on the screen. you have a much more competent set of actors in your leads. Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield is one of the finest actors of his generation, and you can fight me online if you want, but that's absolutely my opinion. And if you don't agree with me, watch Silence, watch Tick Tick Boom, watch the new show that's currently streaming in Australia on Disney, Under the Banner of Heaven. And if you disagree still, then we have very, very different tastes. But also, I'm not attributing this necessarily to Mark Webb. I know he was new to these kind of things. He did train himself in special effects to be able to be the herald of this ship, the captain, as it were. But this is like looking at the Toby ones and how glossy and bright and cartoonish they were, and then looking at the Marvel ones and looking how they're part of the stable of movies that kind of all look the same at this point. These films are incredibly stylized. The cinematography is it doesn't get any better than that first picture in particular. Rewatching on the big screen, I love the costume and the kind of the grittiness of it and the tone and the texture of things and the shadow work and taking it a little bit more seriously, like setting it in a period of time now as a teenager where it's different. There's no nerds anymore. They're just, you kind of introverted or extroverted and that kind of thing. And the Spider-Manning is unmatched at this point. The CG work, the stunt work, the costume design, Andrew Garfield's performance in the suit, he's really cocky there at first and kind of a dick, and then learns to be humble. It's just, I don't think it's been better. Like, it looks really fucking good. And if you don't agree with me, look at the tile that we've used for this episode, whether you're on Instagram or YouTube or wherever it is. The image from this film is just, it is chef's kiss. So good. And I think my point, again, after saying all that is, yes, as I said before, after having a friendship with Addie, I have a much greater appreciation for these. Also, tiring of the kind of the Marvel normality that we're all used to now. These are the two films that are going to age better than anything else. Like, in another 10 years, these will be the ones that people come back to. Proof in the pudding is, if anybody follows me, the Stitch Up with Regs on Instagram, I put up an image. Again, I mentioned this last week, of the intro to Part 2, Rise of Electro, by the way, of the shot of Spider-Man falling from the sky. Like, it starts with the symbol and then it fades up and the costume's rippling and he swoops through the city and, all right, what have you got for me today, New York, that kind of thing. And the crowd went fucking bananas. It was a beautiful experience to reappreciate those films. So yeah, I think they're going to age better than the rest. I think they look outstanding. Yeah, man, they're top shelf, especially that first film. I think that is that's probably one of the best superhero movies ever made, and including Batman Returns, which is my favorite. So that's how I feel about it in a general form. We'll get into little bits and pieces, but Addie, please tell the people, tell me how you feel about it. I want to know.
Here we go. We start with an introduction, right? So we're here in 2022. So let's go back 10 years now. Just let's put in a mindset, right? So it's 2012. It's July of 2012. The biggest fucking superhero film to ever come out, The Avengers, came out a month ago.
Is that right? Okay, holy shit.
And the sequel to The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight, the sequel to that masterpiece, comes out a month from now.
Okay.
Right? And in the middle, we're stuck here with a film that has a character that everybody knows, but a film that nobody really expects nor is looking forward to. It's a film made by a small indie director who's done one film called 500 Days of Summer. And it stars newcomers like Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield, and it's called The Amazing Spider-Man. But did we have a Spider-Man film like 5 years ago? Yes, that's right.
Yes, we did, Addie.
And this film is an answer to the machine that Marvel is now and back then as well. But it's also a film full of heart and soul and potential and just love. But nobody knew that. All we knew is that we had a teaser of the first person view of Spider-Man swinging. And nobody fucking cared. And I get that nobody fucking cared because, we're still battling with the downfall of the Raimi trilogy and people loving Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, and then coming into this kind of feeling that maybe we could have had Spider-Man 4 instead of this new person playing Spider-Man. But it worked. All the risks that Sony took and all the headaches that Mark Webb took, and this being Mark Webb's second film with it's like $200 million more than what he had for his first film as a budget. And he managed it perfectly, and it tells a story about a boy trying to become a man, and it focuses on the man aspect of Spider-Man rather than being Spider-Man. It's a short film. It's a 2-hour, 16-minute film, if I'm not wrong. And Peter Parker truly doesn't become Spider-Man until 1 hour and 17 minutes in the film. It's a film that will, as you said, go on in history and be one of those films that ages well than all the 30 movies and 300 movies that Marvel will do next. It's a film that I go back to when I want to feel things or when I want to just shut off and not feel things. It's a film that truly shows Peter Parker and truly shows what Spider-Man means, and you didn't really get that in the Raimi trilogy. You have Tobey Maguire, who wasn't ever supposed to be a teenager in high school. He was supposed to be a jolly guy who was just reacting to stuff happening to him. The spider bites him, and he gets angsty and Uncle Ben dies, but it's all him reacting to things happening to him. Whereas in this film, it's cause and effect, and it's so well done. When Peter gets bitten by the spider and he realizes that he has his powers, the first thing he does is he stands up to a bully, but not because he wants to save anyone, but because he wants to get revenge for what the bully has done to him. And he gets cocky, which fuck off, man, who said, like, whoever fucking says that you wouldn't get cocky with that powers. Of course you would.
Of course
especially
you would.
Especially if you're like 15, 16. Who the fuck wouldn't?
Part of this, sorry to interrupt, but part of the thing that makes Peter Parker an interesting character, and is definitely stressed much more in this picture that we're talking about, is that a person who has always been weak and suddenly gets power is going to abuse that power until they learn to use it correctly. And that's exactly what he does. His dad rims him out for it. He's like, did you embarrass that kid? And he's like, yeah, but he's a joke. And he's like, yeah, but just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. And then later on, during all of his Spider-Maning, he's really cocky, like where he gets the suit finally. He's finally developed the entire suit and the web shooters, and he's talking to the guy in the car, and he's like, oh my God, what is that? Oh, you found my weakness. It's small knives.
Little knives.
He's just like whipping him up and just like shoot. By the way, the sound of the web shooter is fucking awesome. It's got this real kind of whipping to it.
It's a real thwip.
It's a real thwip. Yeah, like if you were to write out how it sounds, it's thwip. And he sort of whips this guy up against the wall. And he's like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's just something that I designed. You wouldn't even understand it, because I'm fucking Spider-Man right now, so fuck you. And then he comes over to him, and he's real threatening, and he's like, checks his arm or whatever, cuts the mouth hole. And then the cops turn up, and he's, grabs the guy's gun after he shoots at him. He's like, I just did 90% of your job, and then swings off thinking he's King Dick. And doesn't really get it until he saves that kid from the bridge and sees what is at stake and what his abilities truly give him the opportunity to do. And it's more than being a hero. And then he lifts the guy up and he's like, who are you? And he says, I'm Spider-Man. And that's where he becomes. And he's sitting there on the bed looking at the mask going, oh, this is who I am now, for better or worse. And I think that one of the best kind of really subtle things that they do here to stress that he has become, everybody gets a chance at redemption, is he gets into a fight with Flash, and then his uncle gets killed, and Flash goes up to say to him, I'm sorry about your uncle. And Peter slams him against the lockers. And Flash is like, it feels good, doesn't it, to be able to be strong, it's okay. Your uncle died and I'm sorry. And he walks off. And then at the end of the picture, they're friends. He's like, hey man, how you doing? And they give each other a hug and stuff. Like, that is so much more interesting than the caricature of Joe Manganiello being like, hey, yo, fucking got food on me and here's a punch and whatever. And, like, you're a freak, Parker. Like, that's just, it's really broad. This is very, very specific to who these characters would ultimately end up being. I agree with what you're saying. It's a long way around of going about that, but I just like that part of the arc, that it gives him, because Spider-Man is kind of a dick, at first.
He is.
Yeah, and then conversely, and then you see the entire arc of this thing, he loses everybody by the time you get to the end of the film, and then he comes back and it's that little kid in the street. Spider-Man is everyone. That's why he wears a mask. It could be anyone under there. And he says to the kid, why don't you go back and be with your mum? I'm going to take care of this jerk right here. And gets the megaphone out and is like, to put the I want you to get out of the rhino costume. And he's like, no, come down. And he's like, oh, you want me to come down there? I'll be right there. And he throws the thing and then he goes to work. It's just, there is a real development there from the typical that you would be expecting. Sorry, please continue.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. And what's even interesting is you pointed out the Flash arc, right? Because Flash Thompson is in this one. He was the bully that I was talking about. He's not in the second one, which I hate, because I would have loved to see what that relationship would have been after the first film. But the second one had a lot of things going on, so I get that. But what's more interesting is that in the first one, Flash Thompson and Peter Parker have only 4 interactions. And you see that whole arc in that 4 interactions.
Yeah.
And it's fucking spectacular. But I just want to go back and say, like, the cause and effect thing is that he gets his powers, he gets his abilities, right? And he takes revenge on Flash, and he breaks the basketball board. So Uncle Ben has to get called off of work to go and scold Peter Parker. And so he's not able to pick up Aunt May. So he tells Peter that he has to pick up Aunt May because he has to go and do another shift. But right after Uncle Ben says that, Peter Parker gets his first date. And it's a 4-minute scene of literally no actual dialogue. It's just Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield just trying to pull out words. And for fuck's sake, I get so fucking teary-eyed when I see that every time, because I am that kid. I can't fucking talk. This is the only place where I talk, and I can't fucking talk at all. Like, I can't go up to a person and say, hey, can you give me a glass of water? I'll fucking die of dehydration, but I'll not fucking ask because I can't.
What happened to Addie? He died. Why? Well, he's really fucking thirsty and he couldn't ask for any water, and we weren't near a tap. That's intense, man. They are incredible. Like, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, you want to talk about chemistry? Jesus Christ. I mean, they were fucking. They were together when they were making these pictures, and holy shit. It shows that they are instantly, the tension is, and it's also a weird thing for Spider-Man too, because previously you got fucking Tobey Maguire, and Kirsten Dunst, who are these weird, like, virginal kids who, and it's never even alluded to, maybe they might finger bang or whatever it is, or spider bang or whatever you want to do. But with Emma and Andrew, young, realistically drawn people, in the subtlest of ways. I mean, one of these people would go on to win an Oscar, And Andrew Garfield's been
Yes.
nominated like 3 times. This is not, you know what I mean? Like, this is some serious pedigree on screen here. And that scene where the scene where he fights the lizard underwater in the sewers is awesome, because you don't see that. How out of his element is Spider-Man in that. And Rhys Ifans is just, he's killing that kind of lispy Peter Parker. Like, he's got real venom in his speech. But that's the point I'm trying to make. He's just reminded me he's really cool. When he goes to Gwen's place and he's like, he raps on the door with his head and she lets him in, and his chest is torn up, and she's like, she's healing him. She's dabbing him with whatever. And then he's shirtless and he looks good, and she's like, I don't know about this. And then she has the great line of like, you know, I can't do this. He's like, come on, we can be together, whatever. I'm Spider-Man, whip, you know, whatever it is. She's like, look, my dad's a cop, you know, like every day he straps a weapon to his body and goes out and puts that body on the line. You know, I know what this is. I know how this ends. It's really tragic before you even get into the romance of it. Just incredible chemistry. And it's, you know, I know they're not together anymore, but apparently they're still quite good friends. So much so that you sent me a video clip, actually. Someone had put these 2 clips together. Andrew Garfield is on the Hollywood Reporters Actors Roundtable during the Oscar time. They do it with actors and directors and writers and stuff. And Andrew was obviously being nominated at that period. It was either for Silence or Hacksaw Ridge. It might have even been from Tick, Tick, Boom, sorry. And he was talking about how he loves to investigate a character. Like, he took a year off to learn about how to be a Jesuit for Silence, which is a really fucking good movie, by the way. It's a Martin Scorsese film. Just recommend it. And he's like, and I learned how to do this and blah, blah, and I learned how to make woodwork, and I learned how to craft, you know, this rocking chair or whatever. And then it cuts to an episode of what I can only assume is fucking Cribs or something, or 20 seconds or 20 questions with something or other, and it's a camera on Emma Stone, and one of the questions is, what's the best gift you've ever been given? And she says, almost sardonically, like she's quite melancholy about it, she says, a handmade rocking chair. And you're like, she meant he meant it, she loves it, she still loves it. Wow! Like, it gives you so much fucking joy, you know. But all I'm saying is, they should be back on screen together. She did 3 movies or something with fucking Ryan Gos. She can do another one with Andy.
Yeah. And those 2 are the heart of this duology of films. These films work so mostly, and this relationship that we so truly love is because we feel that we feel that weird love where you want to say it, but you can't say it because it's kind of weird because you've not been going out that much, but also, do you really mean it? It just fucking works, man. And it's
like
it's
the way
tragic.
Young, it's very tragic, and it's also the way that young love is, which is fucking all or nothing. Like, when you get older, you become, you know, wiser, and you understand that you are going to get your heart broken or break a lot of hearts before you get to either the person that you spend the rest of your life with or nobody. And it doesn't matter either way. But there is going to be a period in your life where you get hurt, and it's usually around then, because you are so invested. Every fucking person I was with in high school, they were going to marry and have kids and dogs and puppies and just live forever, happy ever after. Because that's the iconography that's around us. That is what we assume is going to happen. And when you're young, even if your parents aren't a great representation of that, media is. Things like this. In this movie, these 2 people are 17 years old. There is no way in reality that they would probably end up together, considering the amount of stress that is on this relationship. And it shows in what we'll talk about next episode, Into the Spider-Verse, where the older Peter is not with Mary Jane anymore, because it couldn't work, you know, for the same reasons that it doesn't work when you're a teenager, but you're all full of fucking hormones and optimism.
I love that, you know, we are in the first Amazing Spider-Man film, we are in this relationship, and we can go from conversations like Peter asking Gwen that you don't really believe what the news is saying about me, do you? And she's like, of course not, I know you. And then to immediately go and Peter say that I like kissing you, and Gwen says I like kissing you too. These two conversations are from two very different worlds, but it sells because we invested in these two, and it. I'm going to do this a lot this episode where I'm going to say things that I like, and then I'm going to say it breaks my heart because it really does. And we get into, because most of it is in the second one, but yeah. You go on now. You sound black.
The tragedy is that we all know how it ends. If you're a fan of the comics, you know where, like, how the ultimate end of Gwen Stacy, if you've seen these movies. And even though Amazing Spider-Man 2 does finish quite well in that Gwen passes, Peter grieves, figures out that she, out of anyone, would want him to keep going. And then him just saddling up and putting... I love the fact that ends before the fight starts. People complain about it all the time. I want to see the fight with fucking Rhino. Why? Like, you can make that up in your head.
Get your own goddamn podcast.
Yeah, get your own damn podcast. Yeah, get your own damn Spider-Man movie, motherfucks. Him, like, flipping towards that ridiculous mech Rhino, which I'm convinced is a joke, and knocking those missiles out the way and swinging the fucking sewer grate thing at the head, and then it cuts to black with that amazing Hans Zimmer score, the big score, and then just the Spider-Man symbol. It's like, that's a really good end to a series. I know they were trying to set up the Sinister Six and whatever Spider-Man 3 would have been for them, I guess, maybe introduce Venom as opposed to doing the Tom Hardy thing. But as those two movies can stand by themselves, and they're totally fine. Just don't watch the end credits sequence thing.
Yeah, and also there was, like, people complaining a lot about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 setting up the Sinister Six and all that. There was one scene. It lasts for maximum of 20 seconds. One scene. Shut the fuck up, please.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up, please. Get your own damn podcast. I never understood what the beef around it was either. It's perfectly normal for that period of time. Iron Man came out in 2007, 2008. We've been doing this shit. Why are you so surprised? And we'll get into it shortly. We'll get into the second film because there's some particulars around that. But I don't really understand why it's so fucking malign. Like, why does everybody have such a huge problem with that movie? I am guilty of, like, dismissing these movies, honestly, because I don't know. I think, honestly, it was probably just media, like, pressure from other people, just thinking like, oh, everyone thinks they're shit, they must be. You know, that second one's so bogged down and overloaded and silly, or it's this or it's that, it's whatever. And then you rewatch them and you're like, hang on a fucking second, these are actually really well constructed, and they have interesting arcs. There's some threads that don't fit together, but that's any movie. But the first one, I think, is a really great. It's a great 3-act structure, and everyone's like, there was another complaint at the end of Amazing Spider-Man, and this is going to be basically us defending the film. So if you don't like these, movies, maybe skip.
We are at war with you.
Yeah, well, not if you don't like this, but
just
like, obviously we're of a different opinion, and if this is irritating you, stop listening, and we pop in next week when we talk about Spider-Verse or something like that. This is what we're talking about now. That first film has really great structure. It sets everything up. It is an origin story in a way that the first film absolutely is not, because you get more of the arc of Peter. The Spider-Man arc in Sam Raimi's original film, the trilogy is the entirety of the arc, whereas this is the film that you get with Andrew Garfield is it's all origin. This intro film, he's not really 100% Spider-Man until the beginning of the second movie when he's got the OG costume, as opposed to what I think is a really cool redesign of that in the first film.
Oh yeah, and the brush by it also. They don't acknowledge that he changed it. It's just there.
It's just like, hey, here we go. I think the pageantry of it, and he, he's not trying to be as sort of clandestine or sleek. Which is really interesting as well. Like, what decisions do you make around the kind of statement that you're making? He becomes New York's hero, so he does have to be more iconic. But the third act of Amazing Spider-Man 1 where he's been shot and then he's been able to convince the wonderful
Captain Spacey?
Yeah, Dennis. No, not Dennis. What's his name? Not I knew it
I
said.
don't know.
What's it? Dennis Miller. Hang on 1 second. His name is. Oh.
This is what we need to research.
Everybody go on hold. Everybody's on hold while I look for stuff. Dennis Leary, stand-up comedian Dennis Leary. Who's really great in this as Captain Stacy. He said, Gwen's there. Let me help save her, and he can't swing properly because he doesn't have his legs and he doesn't have the cavern. Because that's always the thing with Spider-Man. It's like you need to introduce threats, like your web shooter's possibly running out because you don't have enough, and they get broken at the end, the final fight. The lizard smashes them, and then is holding Andrew Garfield, who's had his ass whooped there via the tail. There's some real threat there. But having the crane arms come out, that sequence of him swinging is fucking spectacular. Like, it looks so good. It's really well choreographed. Thematically, it works well. Like, he is completely unconvinced of his ability to do this, to be a hero. The entire film, he doesn't know if he can do it.
But the people believe in him.
But the people believe him. That guy's like, he saved my kid. I'm behind
exactly.
Spider-Man, It's a beautiful sentiment.
It is. It's so weird that Sony did cut off so much of this film, and yet they decided not to cut that one scene that would go on and make this, where this scene wasn't supposed to be there. The whole crane scene wasn't supposed to be there, and with that would have come challenges to how he gets to Oscorp, but that would have been solved anyway because he has to get to Oscorp because the third act needs to happen. But if that wouldn't have happened, he would have still been Spider-Man because of the moment that he saves that man's kid. And it's these things, they line up, and it works very, very well. And I want to take this time to defend the Lizard. I know people give a lot of shit about these movies anyway, but the Lizard especially. The Lizard is my favorite Spider-Man, the villain, because of this movie and because of Rhys Ifans. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name.
I think it's Rhys Ifans. But
Rhys Ifans. Sorry,
that's my white pronunciation. If I got it wrong, I apologize.
Yeah, it's not a sinister plan. It's not that he wants to rule the world. All he wants is to be complete. His whole life, he's been incomplete. His one dream is to help people who feel the same way, and to enhance this human species, to be the best of themselves. It's kind of the same as Spider-Man, but with his dream being one injection away, he takes it, and his humanity deteriorates. Like at the end of the third act, when Peter's hanging and is almost dead because he'll fall down from Oscorp, and when Dr. Connors pulls him up, he tries to pull him up with his artificial hand that comes out, but he can't because it's going away, it's fading away. And his arm that was with him all his life, that arm that represents humanity at this point, saves Peter Parker. And it's, I don't get why people would not just like understand that. Like it's so much of all that we said is just right there if you just look at it. Like, when people say read between the lines, this is the film where you have to read between the lines, because it's about Spider-Man, yes, but it's also like you go and watch a Spider-Man film, yes, but the selling point of the Spider-Man film is that you go buy a ticket of a Spider-Man film and you see a Peter Parker story. That's how we trick you. And it's the same reason why I love Man of Steel, is because it focuses on the man that then becomes this icon of hope, this beacon of hope. And it's the same with Spider-Man, and it's the first film I wouldn't say first time, but it's the first time that we've actually experienced with Peter that anything he does will kind of always end up breaking his heart. But at the end of this film, he says, "Fuck it. I love Gwen and I'll be with her, and fuck the promise that I made with Captain Stacy." And that leads us into the second one perfectly.
Mm.
But you go on third act of The Amazing Spider-Man, then we go into part 2.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of made my point. I was going to talk about the Lizard, and I also just to speak about Peter at the end of this film being like, don't make promises you can't keep. Well, they're the best kind. Like, he's young, he's impulsive, he's in love, like he's got these powers. It's really confusing. And you're right about the Man of Steel correlation. I do think that The Amazing Spider-Man is a better film than Man of Steel, but just in terms of how it handles the character and characterization in particular, you can make every single, like, whatever spectacle you want these days. There is absolutely no limit to what you can achieve. If you can think it in your head, you can achieve it on screen. We are bound by nothing. If you don't have solid characterizations and motivations, like if they don't have wants and needs and why nows, then you fucking, whatever you're doing is going to be devoid of emotional impact. And that's okay. Things can be completely empty if you want. Empty spectacle can be fun sometimes. A little bit of like, I wasn't super invested in all the characters in Maverick, but it looked great. It was a popcorn flick. It had me on the edge of my seat. Beautiful. That's all I ask. These characters are complex. Stan Lee wrote them to be complex. Steve Ditko wrote them to be complex. Peter Parker is a very troubled character. The Lizard is interesting as well. Most of Spider-Man's bad guys that he encounters are scientists who've fucked up, which is interesting. It's like, this is what I'm trying to achieve. Oh no, I fucked up, I'm a lizard. Oh no, it fucked up, I'm a goblin man person. Oh shit, I've got octopus legs. Oh no, I'm made out of water or sand or fucking venom or whatever you want. I think maybe the scientific community in New York needs a little bit more oversight, is the point I'm trying to make.
Yes.
But we need to get some people in there going, hang on a second, that test tube doesn't go there and that doesn't go there, and stop injecting yourself with green shit, all right? Okay, I know you don't have an arm, but we've got robotics. We've got a whole robotics division. Let's get you a robot arm, buddy, and then you can. But then that's going to go crazy as well, and then he'll be robot arm man, and he'll be crushing people with his, their turkey necks. Yeah. I think the Lizard's an interesting case, and a very, what I'm assuming is inebriated, but maybe just jet lagged and very tired. Risa Farnes was on the panel. The clip that you sent me earlier of Ralph Garman, the guy from the Hollywood Babylon podcast, doing the panel at Comic-Con for Amazing Spider-Man, and there's Andrew Garfield in the crowd.
Andrew Garfield, yeah.
Just, really cute and sweet or whatever. At that panel, Risa Farnes was there, and Ralph Garman was asking him, how do you make a monster sort of likable? And this isn't verbatim or anything, but he basically said, I tried to find the monster in people, like how does the monster see you? How do you see the monster? Like, we all have ids, we all have that drive to be better, and at what cost? How far do you push yourself? I understand that, and not to be a dick or anything, but I work out a lot. I do heavy weightlifting. It's part of my daily regime. Sometimes you go too far. You get too strong. You get too cocky. You want to get somewhere too fast. The advice is always, you can burn yourself out. And it's absolutely true if you're trying to achieve anything. Same with writing. I'm like, okay, I need to dedicate at least an entire full day to writing every week. The amount of times that I get to that day and can't do it because of whatever reason, because you just sit down and you end up spinning your wheels. I can understand the Lizard in that respect, because he has this difference. He's differently abled. I'm sorry, I was trying to find the right term then without saying the wrong thing. I didn't want to offend anybody. But yeah, he's differently abled. He's missing this arm. He wants to be the best version of himself, and he thinks that this is the answer. And he's not 100% wrong. Like, delving into genetic alterations and things like that is absolutely a way to go. And this science isn't completely unfounded either, talking about stem cells and whatnot. And growing an arm is one thing, but, you know, much more science fiction than reality. But there's still a basis there for a person to want to do that. The thing that Rhys Ifans gets right is that the corruption of that is that he would then be like, oh, well, this is how everyone should be. I'm completely impervious to harm. I'm super strong, but the longevity of my life, you know, I am cold-blooded, so I don't require heat. So there we've got, you know, you completely cancel out any need for fossil fuels if everybody's cold-blooded. You don't need to warm anything anymore. Like, there are benefits there. The same way that Thanos' snap is like gonna, yeah, okay, it's pretty horrible, genocidal, and he's a madman and all that stuff, but there's fucking whales in Hudson Bay. That kind of idea. The design of the character as well is really interesting, because in the comics he's like got orange, you know, purple pants and a lab coat that's all ripped, and he's got a very like pronounced
alligator like.
Yeah, like a dinosaur kind of look.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, well, it's stupid. It looks like a Koopa Trooper from Mario Brothers. Yeah, but what's the alternative? That he looks like a raptor that can talk? Seriously, what's weirder, to have him be more human in the face or less human in the face? Because I make the argument that if he looked more like a dinosaur, it'd be fucking weirder than if he was just like kind of scaly and lizard-eyed. And look, that fight in the school is one of the most baller-ass Spider-Man fights you'll ever see. Like, it is fucking great. The silent bit with Stan, that one shot.
That's the best Stan Lee cameo ever, dude.
It is. That's hands down the best one. Take the prize away, get your own podcast. That is just, it's top shelf. And like the way that he kind of finally gets that, and the limb comes off, and he's like, ugh, gross. And then he whips him all up. He does all that stuff, whip, and then crawls around him like a spider. I'm doing the movements, if you can hear movements. Yeah. I'll do some video. He like crawls around him like a spider and webs him all up, and then he grabs Gwen, throws the trophy, smashes the window, whips one out and goes, I'm going to throw you out the window now. She's like, what? And he pitches her out, and it's just, the timing is spectacular. The editing in this film is right on. It's really, really well cut. The pace is really sharp, even though it is a little bit longer. And also, I don't know what my point was. The third act is pretty remarkable. Like, losing not only Uncle Ben, the wonderful Martin Sheen, by the way.
Martin Sheen.
I mean, forget about it. They have so much chemistry together. Where he comes in and he's like getting all the food out, and he's like, you know, this is the best meatloaf. This is the king of all meatloafs. And he's
it beats all meatloafs.
Yeah, he's like, I know there's something wrong. He likes your meatloaf. And then he goes upstairs, and Sally Field goes, why didn't you tell me you didn't like my meatloaf? I've been making your meatloaf for 30 years, motherfuck. Like, it's just those little tiny bits of you get actors in there. And I know Sally Field didn't really like doing this movie. She did it because Laura Ziskin was her producing partner, and they knew that this was going to be her last picture because Laura Ziskin had cancer. And I've watched the behind the scenes making of this film. Laura Ziskin's incredibly passionate, very driven producer rather, really cared about this movie. And you know, Sally Field came along to make it with her friend. She believed in her friend, not necessarily the project, and that's totally fine. But she's a great actress, really good pedigree in Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and the director as well, Mark Webb. Like, say what you want about it. I don't know, is he a better director than Sam Raimi? Probably not. You know, is he a better director than John Watts? Probably not. He gives a shit. Like, he really, he really cares about the character, number one. And you can tell that because he comes from indie storytelling. He didn't come from, you know, like Sam Raimi's a really good filmmaker, but he came from like horror and thriller genres where it's not like, I'm just saying that the character's a little bit more well drawn than fucking the guy from Evil Dead, you know? But again, try not to compare people in that respect. But I do think it's, people go, yeah, Mark Webb, what the fuck ever, two shitty movies. I think you're wrong. I think he had a lot to say. I think he was trying to do something different as well. Like, you've got to give him for props for swinging. And if we want to get into just chatting about the sequel really quickly, that movie came out really quick. I think
2014 it was out.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure. I think that maybe they pulled the trigger on a few ideas that didn't fully sort of blossom. And that's obvious in, like I said, the deleted scene where, because both movies are bookended with scenes with Peter's parents, who are whistleblowers, basically. In the comics, they're spies, which is interesting. But in this, they're whistleblowers, and he comes back, in this deleted scene. And if you get a chance, go on YouTube and find it, because it's a wonderful Andrew Garfield performance of his dad, returning into his life. Just incredible. And yeah, as I said, Shailene Woodley from the Divergent series was cast and did shoot scenes as Mary Jane. There aren't actually any deleted scenes, but there is some behind the scenes stuff of her on set. I just think they kind of had too many balls in the air while trying to set up the Sinister Six with Drew Goddard and then also thinking about Venom. I think it was wounded by the fact that they were trying to Marvelize this. They were trying to give it an MCU universe very much. The way that they are now doing that with the Venom side, like Venom comes out and then Morbius, and then we've got Kraven coming out, and all the while Spider-Man is kind of
Kraven the Vegetarian, by the way.
Kraven the Vegetarian. I'm behind that. And fuck all y'all.
No, you're not.
I am.
No, you're not. You fucking told me you're not.
No, I am absolutely. I don't care. It makes much more sense in 2022 to make Kraven a animal rights activist than it does like some big game hunter. If you're making a hero movie, if it's going to be an anti-hero movie, it makes absolutely more sense to that. If you want to have him be in the Spider-Man movie as a villain, then he should have been in No Way Home hunting Spider-Man and hunting fucking elk and deer and whatever else they've got in New York. I don't know, fucking huge lizard people. I don't give a shit. But making a standalone hero movie, you can just change the name of the movie to Vegan the Hunter.
Vegan the Hunter.
That's a guy going out there searching for carrots. But anyway, so they're trying to do that. They were trying to do that with this universe, and it didn't take off. And Andrew Garfield was pretty vocal about how difficult it was making this last film. And there's some cracks there. You can certainly see it. He's trying to set things up. Having Felicia Hardy in there and Alistair Smythe and all these balls in the air for the next movie to catch that never actually transpired. But in terms of, like I said, the Spider-Maning at the intro. The fight scene in Times Square, Jamie Foxx as Electro, another character that's hard to do. Like they'd done all the best. They'd gone through these.
That they had, yeah.
I mean, the only one they hadn't gotten to was Vulture, which was, ended up being in Homecoming. But you can see them kind of going, fuck.
And he was there in the scene where they walk through and the octopus arms, and then there's the Venom symbiote, and then there's the Vulture suit. This is where my heart breaks a lot. The second film,
because it didn't execute, or because it didn't get to to continue on and have a wrap up in a sequel. Because we just kind of assume that everything needs to have 3 now. The rule, three sequels. I mean, which is ridiculous because a lot of movies don't do that. A lot of movies have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sequels, whatever. But you've got your Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, which has more now as well. But Lord of the Rings, they things come in 3s. Successful things come in 3s. There's 3 Iron Man. Well,
the plan with the writers and everything was a 5 film arc.
Is that right?
There's supposed to be 5 films, and then from those films there were supposed to be spin-offs like Venom and whatever, which they're kind of doing now. But so now we're heading towards the Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's like I said, it breaks my heart because there's a lot of foreshadowing with what happens with Gwen that I'll get into, but also that there's about an hour of deleted scenes in this film that break my heart, especially the one that we talked about, which. If that would have stayed in the film, because it ends with Richard Parker saying, "With great power comes great responsibility." It ends with that, and it was 2014, and superhero films were not taken as seriously as they are now, where everyone's so critical about them, that even a superhero film needs to have an Oscar-worthy performance. That 6-minute scene would have been the first one to show that, yeah, these are superhero films, but these are also films about character and about grief, and it's Peter Parker holding his father like that, and he's like, "Who are you? Why are you here?"
Yeah.
And where have you been? And he's screaming, and then his screams turn into cries, and then he hugs him. It's like I said, it's heartbreaking.
It's a lot of missed opportunity, even though, like I said, there's some really interesting stuff going on in that film. And the death of Gwen is what could have been, kidnap bait. Absolutely, the way that Mary Jane is in those original Raimi pictures. Like I said last week, when Gwen turns up to the power plant to help Spider-Man fight Electro, and he says, "What are you doing here? You can't be here." And she's like, "Hey, motherfucker, I make my own decisions. Who do you think you're talking to? I'm going to help you stop this guy because it's the right thing to do." She did the same in the first film. He's like, "Get out of that building. Get out of the building." She's like, "No, I'm going to wait until this cure is ready." If she doesn't do that, the lizard wins. Everybody in New York gets turned into a fucking lizard person.
Yep.
She's absolutely has agency, and the fact that she dies is tragic not only for Peter but for the audience as well. We now lose a hero, and you can whatever. If you want to be, if you think it's too sentimental or too soft or whatever, of him standing in that cemetery over a period of months, it's 5 months or something, he's gone, different seasons pass and all that stuff. If you think that's soft and sentimental and not Spider-Man or whatever, you haven't lost anyone.
Yeah.
You've never had your heart broken by grief. It's like what I said to you recently about it. It's, grief is somehow purging fire to get you through it. Unspoken of love is grief with nowhere to go. Grief is love with nowhere to go, and there's nothing romantic about it at all. That's absolutely true, and that's what he's dealing with. He's lost the reason he was fighting, and he has to regain that by saying, "It's not about me." I don't care what type of movie you're making, whether it's got fucking dudes in Spider-Man outfits or not, they are powerful human themes. There's no way around it. That is an interesting thing to look into about how people handle loss, whether it's fighting a Green Goblin or not. Dane DeHaan.
Yes. Do you ever think that
anyone's name sound more like the start of a song, Dane DeHaan, na 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 na, like it sounds like you're about to burst into song. To me,
yeah,
DeHaan, na na na. Anyway,
do you ever think that they casted Dane DeHaan only because he has those pointy ears that look like a goblin?
The dude is 14% goblin already.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like there is goblin in his background. There is goblinitis somewhere in there. No, I think they cast him because he's quite good. He's an interesting young actor in the sense that he's not traditionally good looking. He kind of looks like what Brad Pitt looked like when Brad Pitt was young, but without the Hollywood. I'm serious. He looks like a weedier Brad Pitt when Brad Pitt first started acting in Cool World and stuff. He's got a great intensity. He was in a really good film called what was it? Place Beyond the Pines.
He was also in Chronicle, if I'm not wrong, which is another superhero film.
Yeah, he was in Chronicle, yeah, and that was great performance. He's really good. I think the Goblin design's a bit strange in the back end of that movie, and it's the suit kind of the mechanics around the suit.
It's half mechanic, half kind of like made through tape and cardboard thing, but it kind of works because it's also not a fully developed Goblin at this point. He's also just getting into that whole, this is where I fit now, this is my responsibility, and now, well, not responsibility, but this is how I'm alive. I like the fact that if he doesn't make it to the suit, he dies. So as soon as he gets into the suit, he's changing and everything because of what's inside his body now.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, what I wanted to point out was that this film, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, starts with us, the audience, inside Richard Parker's watch. It's the mechanics of the clock moving.
So cool.
What the fuck, man?
Yeah. For sure.
I watched this movie about 20 times now, and the last time I watched, no, of course not.
I'd tip it'd be way more than 20. I've seen it 20 times at least.
Yeah, I mean 20 times through and through, actually. But yeah, it starts with that, and the last few watches, I was like, they really fucking started hinting on Gwen's death since the first scene. For fuck's sake, man.
And then her speech. Are you kidding me? The whole thing is about fucking do what you can while you're here and appreciate it and all that stuff, because later on we're going to get flattened in a bell tower or whatever the fuck it is.
Ouch.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's really brutal. I mean, we can talk about it. That scene, because you expect her to get saved.
To be saved, yeah.
If you don't know any better, you absolutely expect him to save her. And when she hits that ground with that thwap, and then he drops down next to her, and the blood comes out of her nose, and he loses his fucking mind because he was actually in love with the person at the time, Andrew Garfield. I defy you. So that's up there with Wolverine.
Yeah.
Logan, or Wolverine at the end of X-Men, or X-Men 2, the end of X-Men 2, where Jean has died she's held the water back until the ship could take off, and then it's collapsed over the top of it before she becomes Phoenix, and Cyclops is trying to get out, and Wolverine's holding him, and she's just like, she's gone, and they just fall apart on each other. These two guys who have been fighting over this woman for ages. Powerful shit, man. I don't care if bones or claws are popping out of people or laser beams or whipping webs. These are real human issues, and it's why this stuff stands the test of time. We are currently in our third iteration of Spider-Man in 25 years because people keep coming back to it.
It's very true. And you know what? It's Gwen's death is the first time I ever remember crying because of something that I saw in a film.
Yeah.
And I know we skipped right through the end for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but it's something that needs to be talked about because you don't get that in the Raimi trilogy, and you certainly don't get that in the MCU. Kind of with May's death, but
No Way Home does a good job of excuse me. In terms of the Spider-Man of it all, Aunt May's death, Marissa Tomei's death is pretty strong in that she's trying to hold on long enough to tell Peter to hold on, and then she dies. That's pretty horrible. And, maybe if you don't have the previous 10 years of character development in your head when you watch Endgame, it doesn't work, but Tony dying is pretty powerful at the end of that. Yeah. And Cap getting his happy ending is pretty powerful at that as well. I think they're going to be chasing those feelings a lot. I don't know when they're.
But that's yeah, absolutely. But that is the tragedy of Spider-Man, isn't it? Everything he loves just goes bad.
Yeah, he loses. It's one of the things about him that's so interesting is that he's young and he makes mistakes, and even when he's a seasoned crime fighter, he's still a human. He's still very susceptible to influence. He ends up being friends with most of the villains before they become villains. You know, the people he cares about dies. He gets things taken away from him, and yet he keeps getting up. You know, he keeps getting up to fight again and to fight again, because that's what a hero does. You know, it's not, like I said before, it's not about him. It's about that little kid in the street, you know? And I'm not saying he's children are the reason you should be a superhero, because that's not the case, but just meaning that kid is the embodiment of, well, if you can be strong.
Of what's, you know, and of what Spider-Man represents.
Yeah, Spider-Man represents the ability for all of us to make the right choice when we're tested. And I know as a lifelong comic book fan, I used to get shit in primary school and high school for liking superhero stuff and comics and reading comics, and you know, used to get bullied for it, and it's fucking kid shit. I'm like, well, I'm a kid. I don't know what the argument is here. So I'm very loud about it now. I love comics, and you know, people who don't get it, that's fine. But if you can't look at these themes and look at the emotions that are being displayed here in comic book form or in movies or in animation, like, you know, Spider-Verse, like we're going to talk about in the next episode, you can't tell me that these things aren't real, that these emotions, that these feelings, that these characters aren't relatable, because it's just not true. And I think it's really narrow-minded to think that you're somehow better than this material, because you're not. It's just not for you, and that's totally fine. But don't do that and then go and watch fucking, you know, some TV show that's super Stranger Things or whatever, and talk about there being a difference, because there really isn't.
Yeah.
And get your own podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. Get your own podcast. I absolutely agree, though. There's a theme in the second one. Also, the second Amazing Spider-Man film is a huge step up in scale and cinematography and just how it looks. Because, and I think the biggest reason why people didn't like it is because they expected a more darker take on Spider-Man again, because we'd already got that with the Amazing Spider-Man, but it wasn't. Like, we had the origin story that was dark and gritty, but gritty with air quotes. But this is an amazing second swing. I love that you pointed out that both the Amazing Spider-Man films end with what's sort of like a comic book ending, where it's Spider-Man soaring through the skyline of New York. It's heroic and it's hopeful, and it. For me, it kind of doesn't and does work in this one. Like, I go back and forth with how I feel, because it's also in the fucking trailer. Like, I was so hyped for that trailer because, oh shit, that's him, like, almost flying with the sewer covered, trying to hit Rhino. And it's teased in the trailer, and then it's a stupid decision to put that there, because it's a teaser for whatever is to come. But it's also a very comic book style ending where, things happen, hearts break, but we do go on. We have to move on so that we don't lose hope. And it's hopeful in ways that you won't even imagine. And I would love to say that Sony forced that on the writers, that we can't end it on just Gwen dying and Peter not hopeful. I would love to say that Mark Webb fought for it, but no. They all felt that we can't end it there. We can't end with Spider-Man not hopeful. And I don't know what the plans were for whatever, and I don't know if they were ever planning to elaborate on Peter not being hopeful, but also being the best Spider-Man he's also been because of Gwen's death. But it seems like what we got in No Way Home, he kind of went down the route. And it was like a warm hug. We will get to that when we do No Way Home. But it's sorry. Just going back to the theme.
I think you're right. No Way Home gives us an idea of, you know, what Peter would have dealt with. He says it. He's like, it became rageful. You know, I stopped pulling my punches. That's absolutely. Why would he? I don't have time for a person. When Toby's like, "Do you have someone?" And he's like, "Nah, I haven't time for that. I'm Spider-Man 24/7 because that's what I have. I've got to make up for Gwen's death, basically." And then when he saves Mary Jane, he forgives himself. He gets an arc in that film, and he's in it for the third act. Pretty incredible they pulled that off. But as far as the you were saying, tonally they shift. Amazing Spider-Man is Batman Returns, and Amazing Spider-Man: The Rise of Electro is Batman Forever. They live in the same universe, but they're
completely visual tones.
Different. They feel different, and that's okay. Batman Returns is amazing, and Batman Forever is kind of amazing too. That film's aged better than you think it has. It's the Batman and Robin that everybody doesn't like, but Batman Forever gets lumped in with it. But I'm a huge advocate for that film. Apart from the really weird, the super weird plot hole at the end of that. It's bizarre.
Is it the one where Batman has a business card? Or is that Batman and Robin? Batman
and Robin with George Clooney as the business card, and you just forget that one. But Batman Forever is actually like a really good film, and it's quirky and it's different, and it's got really good structure, and it looks really slick, and Val Kilmer's actually fucking awesome, really cool. But the end of it's strange in that. Okay, so Robin, I know this is the Spider-Man, but I'm gonna get into it. In that film, Chris O'Donnell, who's 45 years old, whatever the fuck, is playing Robin, right? And in the throughout the film, he's like constantly trying to get Val Kilmer's Batman to like, take me in. I want to be your partner. Like, what can I be called? I mean, Nightwing, Batmite, Batwing, whatever the fuck it is. Take me on. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it because all you want to do is kill Harvey. All you want to do is kill Two-Face. I'm not going to do it. Blah blah blah. And eventually, the Riddler comes. He attacks. Blows up the Batcave, kidnaps Chase Meridian, and then takes her off to Riddler's Island where he's got all these traps set up and bloody fucking blah. And Batman turns up to the Batcave, and there's Chris O'Donnell dressed in a Robin outfit that fucking Alfred sewed for him with nipples and a huge codpiece. And he's like, okay, I guess we're partners, and they shake hands and then they fly off, right? Batman's in a plane, Robin's in a boat, and they're doing like the bombs are going off and all that stuff, and then the plane gets shot down, and the boat gets blown up, and they rescue each other and blah blah blah, and they make it up to the island thing, and then things go awry, and Robin gets captured. Okay, well they both get captured, and Robin in particular, and the Riddler has set up this horrible choice that Batman has to make. You either save your girlfriend Chase Meridian, and she's in this cylinder thing, or you save your partner, the Batman's boy wonder Robin. He's in this one over here, and below them is a huge big drop, and if they fall, they'll die on the rocks below. Whatever. He's like, you have to choose. Is it your the woman you love, or Batman's junior partner? At no fucking point in that movie does either of the villains know who Robin is. Robin has never been introduced until the third act of that film. They don't even know, even if they were to surmise which they do, surmise that Batman is Bruce Wayne, they figure that out. Even if they were to go, he's got a 20-something-year-old boy living with him as a ward, they would not know that he would turn up in costume as a person called Robin. Like, it's just fucking, it's the hugest plot hole. And I never figured it out until really, fairly recently, when I was doing rewatch for the Batman Returns episode of the Stitch Up that I did at the end of last year, when it came out at the beginning of this year. I rewatched them all. And I'm like, hang on a second. When the fuck did the Riddler find out that Batman had a sidekick? And he doesn't, but he's totally prepared for it. I'm fine with comic book logic working in things, but you have to connect shit. Just have one scene where, they've put up they've blown up the Batcave, and the Riddler puts up a little monitoring device or something and goes, hang on a second, he's got a partner. We need to get prepared, or whatever. Anyway, that's my rant. Enjoy it. What I want to talk about it was a fucking I really went crazy then for a second, because every time I think about it, I'm just like, as a screenwriter, that if I stumbled along that, I remember I was writing a screenplay last year with my writing partner, Ben. We were doing an adaptation of The Phantom. And at the end of it, I discovered this massive plot hole in that I hadn't introduced the son of the character to the villains for them to understand that there was this lineage and it was about this ring thing and all this stuff. Like, this huge big piece of the story that happens at the end would only have happened if the bad guys know that the Phantom has a son. I'm like, oh, fuck. I got to go back and insert some information here. So I literally had to go back and put in an expositional scene where it's like, he's got a son, you know, he's bred or whatever. Not that he's bred. He's not a piece of, he's not like a nice sourdough. He had a child. But yeah, you think about it. It's just like that. It blows my mind. Anyway.
I get that. Like I had a scene where like a person gets shot and it's all there and we shot it. And we go back to the script and it says the person doesn't hear the shot, but he's shot because the gun has a silencer on it. And we edited it with like fucking sounds with like gunshots and everything. I was like, oh fuck.
You're like, oh man, we missed the whole point. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you make mistakes and sometimes you make mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, back to the Spider-Man. What I want to talk about just before we get into the questions is what do you think the likelihood of, I mean, the hashtag ASM3 is pretty huge. I used it on the clip that I posted from Amazing Spider-Man 2 when I was at the Spider-Thon, and it has been viewed more times than anything else I've done because I use that.
Yeah, they'll do that. Yeah.
It has been liked more times than I can count. And I only notice this because Instagram tells me every time someone does it, and it happens 5 times a day. So what do you think the likelihood is of it happening? These are questions for you, Addie. What would you like to see happen? And give me a little bit of an idea of why you think Avi Arad is kind of semi-responsible for causing the downfall of what could have been this cinematic universe.
So you want me to go into all that?
Do Avi first, because you've mentioned it, and you were like, "Oh, we'll talk about it on the episode." You didn't explain it to me, and I know nothing. I'm interested because I know Avi's. He's been a really strong proponent of the superhero genre all the way back to X-Men and Blade. He is an important person in the Marvel entertainment landscape. But I know that he's also a businessman and a producer and kind of an egomaniac. And I want to know what that is to you. So answer that question first, and then we'll do the others.
Yep. So before I answer all those questions, I want to point out one more last thing before we go into questions. Then.
Yeah, sure.
There's a theme in the second Amazing Spider-Man film that's called. That's the theme of everyone's life, is that we don't have enough time. It's the theme with Richard Parker that he doesn't have enough time to explain to Peter what's going on or to be with him. It's the theme with Peter Parker that the first time we see Spider-Man or Peter Parker, he's running late to his graduation. And it all comes down to he's just a tad bit too late to save Gwen at the end.
Yeah.
And it's there, and just Gwen's line of "we have to be greater than what we suffer" just makes me tear up every time.
Yeah, because
it's what that brings him out of that. It's her saying that Peter realizes that I don't have to do this for myself, but I have to do it for her because she would have wanted this. Because not anyone else but her, but because of her belief that I could do it, now I have to. And there's no turning back. And it's that kid at the end that he inspired in the opening minutes with hope that goes in front of fucking Rhino with his mask on. And it's spectacular. And that opening scene, and like we've said, there's no Spider-Man Spider-Man film that does swinging as well as Mark Webb's swinging.
Mhm.
It's a testament to, like, in the first Spider-Man film, they actually made the whole of New York. Like they had a backlot and they made whatever they shot exterior. They made that. And it's like the first time he actually swings, he says, I'm swinging here. That's Andrew Garfield in the suit actually swinging through chains. It's not CG, it's just there, it's him. And I hate that it's the first and the last time we'll ever see Spider-Man really swing.
Yeah. It was a lot of that film was done practically after watching the making of. They shot a lot on actual sets and had actual stunts going on, and that was the default now is absolutely do everything in CG. By the way, I'm swinging here. That is a reference to the film Midnight Cowboy with Dustin Hoffman. I'm walking here. Like, fucking really good film. Only R-rated film to ever win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. There you go.
Wait, no, really?
Only X-rated film. I think it was, or NC-17.
Yeah,
whatever the highest unrated rating is for in the United States, because it's about male gigolos, like it's about male prostitutes. At the time, it was like, well, we can't give this an R rating. It's going to have to be whatever the next one is.
X-rated?
It might be NC-17 or X-rated, yeah, but not X as in like porno. It's not like that. But
yeah, it's not The Room. It's
no,
the film. It's not a film about porn.
Yes, let's face it, nothing's The Room. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for the better of the industry.
Yes, absolutely. Jeez, I can't believe the guy's still making money off that. And yeah, well, no, yeah, I completely agree with what you said there about the end of that picture, and I do think that the Rhino costume, you know, Paul Giamatti's great. I do think that's a joke. I think the big mechanical Rhino costume is like, look how silly this is. I think they're doing that on purpose, and just to be obscene and be like, this is so bananas, because what we're dealing with is so bananas. But let's just quickly talk about Avi. Tell me what it is. I need to know.
Yeah, well, to the people who don't know, Avi Arad has been in the superhero business for a long time, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
He's also a toy maker or a toy seller. That's what he is, and he makes money he makes money off of Spider-Man toys. That's why in every Spider-Man film in the MCU, there has to be at least 3 Spider-Man suits because they have to sell toys.
Well, fuck me.
Yeah. So if you don't know, and if you were kind of annoyed why Spider-Man has so many suits in the MCU, that's the reason.
Oh, it keeps me up at night. Fucking lying there, just staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the Spider-Man costumes going, why is there a black one? Why is there a blue one? Why is there a blue and black one? What the fuck is Night Monkey? All the time. I'm on medication. It's clearly not working today. No, I'm joking. Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
There's always a... George Lucas taught us one thing. It is that fucking licensing rights matter.
Yeah. So he was the executive producer in the Raimi films.
Right.
And Spider-Man 3 was Avi Arad's triumph, where Sam Raimi wanted to do one villain and kind of go on in the psychology of Harry Osborn and the relationship between Harry and Peter without all the Venom shit. But Avi Arad was like, we need Venom because people like Spider-Man and Venom. We need Sandman because people like Spider-Man and Sandman. And cut a bit of the Goblin there as well, because Goblin has been Goblin forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because he was the president. I think he was the president of Marvel back then. I think so. He was. And it was all under him, so he pressured Sam Raimi into bringing all those characters in it. And that film is the way it is because of him. That's 90% of his fault. But what's even more amazing is that with all that, Sam Raimi was able to give Sandman an arc and was able to kind of give Harry Osborn a really good arc at the end where he dies, and Venom stays as goofy and fucked up as it is.
Yeah,
but
that's what it is.
But that's Venom.
Mm.
And unfortunately, that's what he did with the Amazing Spider-Man 2. But with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, here's the thing: Sam Raimi before Spider-Man 3 had made a couple of other films. The Amazing Spider-Man was Mark Webb's second film and the first ever big budget film he's ever done.
Yeah.
And sorry.
That's it.
And The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was the third film he's ever done. And you see the interviews and you see like the red carpets, and especially for Spider-Man 2, when people are like, so there are like 4 to 5 villains in this film. Who's responsible for that? It's Avi Arad and Mark Webber. He's like, that's all Avi. It's, you look at the guy's face and you know what he's planning, and it's fucking disgusting.
Yeah, he's looking at. Well, so you kind of told me everything I need to know when you were like, he makes toys. I was like, oh, I get it. Of course he would be pushing for, and as much as I said last week, the third Spider-Man movie is different now. Its time has passed enough that you can watch it ironically, and it's kind of funny, and you know, the goofiness that was in it is now a little bit charming, whereas that was after the first two. You're like, what the fuck is this? It's completely off. It's your Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
it really is.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it has some charm to it now. But yeah, knowing that he is that, so he's come in and done the same sort of thing with the Amazing Spider-Man 2 and been like, hey, you know, we need a Sinister Six movie because I want to fucking make some cash money off these. And
why he did that was because we need to compete with Marvel, and I hate that. I hate that mentality because it's what broke down DC, competing with Marvel, and I hate that because we were kind of heading into a cinematic universe without actually showing that we have all these characters. Like, you have Felicia Hardy in there. That's one of the best fucking Easter eggs of all time, because the people who don't know who Black Cat is will not give a fuck about the name. Yeah. But the people who know who Black Cat is will be like, holy shit.
Yeah. And it's that's we're not like hanging a hat on it. It's just like, here she is. If you know who Felicia Hardy is, then great. If you don't, you'll figure it out at some point. And also, that actress is fantastic. The British actress would have been great. Do I have a crush on her because she looks like my fiance? Yes, I do. It's neither here nor there, really. Do I have a crush on fucking Andrew Garfield because he's Andrew Garfield? Yes, I do.
Yes,
it's a good looking movie. Fucking Jamie Foxx. It is a bunch of good looking people in that goddamn picture, and I don't care what Avi Arad says. He needs to make more toys without masks. I want a tiny little Andrew Garfield in my house. Like the Indian in the cupboard.
The what in the cupboard?
They should call it the Native American in the cupboard, actually. You know the movie The Indian in the Cupboard?
Nope.
It's this movie, and there's an Indian in the cupboard. But he's not like a full-grown Indian person. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying Indian. Native American in the cupboard. And I don't know what I'm getting, how I'm getting here, but what the fuck? He's in the cupboard, and it's Indian, and it's tiny little like stereotypical cowboys and Indian in the cupboard, and he's tiny. He's a miniature little guy. I don't know what happens. They have adventures. Him and whoever owns the cupboard has adventures with this very, very small Native American.
Is this an Ant-Man comic? It feels like
he's
one.
Ant-Man sized, right? He's like, well, he's bigger than Ant-Man. He's like action figure sized. I would like to have a very small, sentient Andrew Garfield in my house. Is the point of that joke? Next.
Got it.
But when I say Indian, he's not from the continent of India. It's a Native American
country. India's not a continent.
Sorry, yes. So Asia is the continent. India is the country. Yeah. That's not where he's from. Not little Indian man in the cupboard. I feel like I'm making it worse.
It's fine, you get it, man.
Oh, Christ. I was just thinking, I was stumbling over myself trying to remember the plot of Indian in the Cupboard, and I don't. So me continually saying it was me trying to jog my memory of like what goes on. I don't know, actually. Someone owns that cupboard and they have, I don't know what he does.
Those are adventures in the cupboard.
He has adventures in there with all the pasta shells and flour, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so okay,
Avirad.
that's Avirad. Yeah, well that makes perfect sense. Okay, so forgetting all that for a second, let's just say the film ends the way that it does. It's really successful. What is Amazing Spider-Man 3? Like, what does that look like? And I mean then, not now. Now it's something else, and we can talk about that when we do our No Way Home episode and talk about what the possibility of a 3 for Andrew is, a 4 for Toby is, and whatever. What would it have been after this? Do you think it would have been Sinister Six?
I think so. I think we might have had a Venom film before another Spider-Man film.
You think?
Okay. And then in the next Spider-Man film, it's weird because when I watched the film for the first time, I thought like before it was cancelled and everything, but I would still stick with the thought that I had then, because now my thoughts after No Way Home has changed of what that third film could have been. But I still want a depressed Spider-Man. I do.
You're young and angsty.
And depressed.
Yeah, well, that's also true. But hey, we're here to do fun stuff, and we'll enjoy ourselves, and we'll take all the different Spider-Mans. Thank you. We kind of had all three of them, you know, like there was three very different tones of Spider-Man in that No Way Home picture.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to get to that one and then see. Holy shit, we just recycling everything we sent.
Probably, but whatever. People will listen or they won't. It's totally fine. But okay, so it's Sinister Six. I mean, you're probably right. If they had have gone the Venom route and done that movie first, whether it was Tom Hardy or, I mean, if this would have been 2014,
there's no way that was Tom Hardy there.
Yeah,
like
let's say 2016 they do a Venom picture, and 2018 they do a third Amazing Spider-Man. Maybe they cross them over, and that's how you begin. You know, you do
the Sonyverse, Sony Spider-Verse,
and it probably would have gone much better. You know, it would have gone much better, and I think they would have. It would have been interesting to see Tom Hardy do that because he's so, just as a in terms of his build, he's so different than Andrew Garfield. To see this kind of short, stocky dude kind of take on this, you know, lanky teenager would have been really cool, I think.
Yeah. And it seems like Tom Hardy's Venom won't be fighting Spider-Man anytime soon, or the Spider-Man that we know of.
Yeah, I mean they're kind of like hinting at it a little bit, but is that going to be Tom Holland? Is Tom on his way out? Like, he seems like maybe that's the case, but we'll talk about that next week, and then. So the week after next, but next week we'll talk about where does Miles fit in all this, you know, because you know there's a conversation that will happen next week about Miles, and you come back
absolutely.
But in the interim,
but before we go, I want to ask you what's your like idea of what the Amazing Spider-Man 3 could have been, because there were ideas of like bringing back Captain Stacy and everything, but like I don't know how much that would have fit in. But I want to know what you think of what there could have been. I just can't speak now.
It was like me trying to explain the fucking Indian in the cupboard. the rarest of fucking topics to come up on this podcast. Anyway. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. So I think probably Sinister Six would have been an interesting idea, but if they'd kind of flipped the script a little bit and done it, you know, with the people you weren't maybe expecting. Felicia Hardy, absolutely. And then there would be you bring in Mary Jane as well, and then you have a love triangle. That might have been interesting. And at the end of it, I think Spider-Man, like you said, has to die. And the way that they killed him in the end of the Ultimate Universe in the comic book series, he dies and you get Miles.
Yeah.
And then they they did that in another picture that we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah, and that's that's exactly what I want. I want Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker to die in the hands of Miles.
Yeah,
that's a lot. I'm asking, but also I'm gonna say this again. I said it in the last Legacy of Spider-Man episode. I'm gonna say this again. Sony, I know you're listening. Can we get a Miles live action like ASAP? Please call me because I have a fucking script and it has Silk in it, and please let me do it. I have it. It's already done. Please.
Give me a ring. We know you're listening. Disney Plus. Could you call us again? It's not Disney anymore. It's Sony, isn't it? Yes. Hi. This is Richard Sony. Do you have that Miles Morales script going there? Spider-Man's? That'd be great. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's the way you move forward. But do go back and perhaps have a look at The Amazing Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man: Rise of Electro for a second time or a third time or a fourth time or however many times you've seen it. But go back and have a look at it with some fresh eyes and be like, hang on a second. These have their place. Absolutely. And I enjoy them very much. But then again, I tend to buck the trend. Like I've said a lot, Batman Returns is my favorite superhero movie and my favorite Batman movie, and it's better than The Dark Knight. And the amount of people who laugh at me for that is a lot.
Hey, I don't like The Dark Knight at all. I don't like those films. So I respect your...
Careful, we'll get cancelled. We'll get cancelled.
Hey, man.
I used to listen to this podcast and they got cancelled. Why? Was it like a Me Too thing? No, they don't like The Dark Knight. You might have... I think that's an extreme reaction, pal, whoever you are and whoever I am. I think that's a really extreme reaction. That's an escalation that didn't need to happen. So, before we finish up...
What the fuck?
It would be, wouldn't it?
How? You guys talking about films, dude. What the fuck?
I don't know. I don't pretend to understand the voices in my head. They just tell me what they're thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the best way to be. So, are there any questions for this week, or is it just next week's questions we've done?
No, we do have questions for this week. But before we get into that, I want to give a shout out to my boy, like I fucking know him, my boy Hans Zimmer, who's done.
Mr. Zimmer, no, he's listening. Hey Hans. Oh, hi Hans.
Congratulations again for the Dune Oscar. Has also done a lot of superhero films. Has done my favorite scores. But yeah, the opening of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is something to marvel at. Pun intended.
So good. It is. It's really good. That as a theme is stronger than any of the other themes they've had. Hum the Danny Elfman theme. And the only reason that you know the one from the MCU is because it's an orchestrated version of the fucking Spider-Man.
The 90s one. Yeah.
Not 90s. It was that song is from the 60s or 70s cartoon. Yeah. Spider-Man done whatever a spider can. It's just an orchestrated version of that. The Hans Zimmer one is iconic in my head anyway. I can hear that a lot. In fact, when I read a Spider-Man comic and I open the first page, that song typically starts in my head.
Well, since you brought it up, every time I read any comic and it has Spider-Man in it, which has happened twice now, it's Andrew Garfield that I hear.
Oh,
it's him with the mask. Yeah,
absolutely. And they do a really good job of like having the voice sound muffled, but you can still I'm holding my mouth over my hands. My mouth over my hands? The fuck? Indian in the cupboard. Native American. Indigenous person in the cupboard. No, it's I'm holding my hand over my mouth, and they do a good job of having it sort of sound like this, but it's still Andrew Garfield. Yeah, I totally hear that. I recently read the newer run of Age of Ultron, the Brian Michael Bendis, Brian Hitch series, which was sort of all the superheroes coming together and fighting Ultron. And Spider-Man's in that, but it's funny. It's Superior Spider-Man when his body was taken over by Doc Ock, but I was still hearing that.
That's interesting. See, we could have gone so many different routes.
Plenty of places to go. Yeah, absolutely. But let's have a look at some questions. It's question time, and here's the theme song. How many questions are there today, Addie?
5.
5. Lovely number. Nice and round. Okay, so what is the first question?
First question is, if you could choose any villain for TASM 3, The Amazing Spider-Man 3, who would it be and why? You go first.
I kind of did it before. I think Felicia Hardy would be really interesting. I don't know how you turned the version of the character that was in Amazing Spider-Man 2 into the character that Black Cat is. Maybe she's always been that. She's always been a burglar, but somehow she gets involved in stealing something she shouldn't, and people start going after her, and Batman, fuck me, the Indian in the Cupboard teams up with her, and they have adventures. No, Spider-Man teams up with her to help her, and she ends up fucking him over.
Yeah.
In a similar way that Catwoman did in The Dark Knight Rises, perhaps. So, but yeah, I would say absolutely Black Cat. What about you?
I don't know. Can we this is what I'm campaigning for now.
You had this question. You knew it was going to come up. You didn't do any prep. I made that up off the top of my head. You had this question written down. You've read it out loud more than once.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, any fucking way. What the fuck? Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. So yeah, you think it should be?
Yeah, so I've been campaigning for 2 films. One is the live-action Miles Morales film without Spider-Verse. That I have the script for. Please ring me. The second is a Spider-Man film without any huge ass villains. It's Spider-Man swinging around saving people and getting called into Shield, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could have it like a training movie where he's, in some.
Yeah, and then
Avengers program.
Sorry, you go.
No, you go.
Yeah, and maybe at the end of it, or introduction of second act, we get I don't know, man. Yeah, maybe we get a Kraven the Hunter arc. It would be cool to see Aaron Taylor Johnson's Kraven the Hunter in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man films. That would be fucking awesome because they're both impeccable actors.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what that picture is. I really like Kraven as a character. Kraven's Last Hunt is one of the best Spider-Man arcs of all time. Yeah, I agree. Getting him in is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Question
number 2. What's your favorite Spider-Man villain of all time, comic or live action? So we can choose from the comics or the live action.
Yeah, cool.
Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin is not included. Now go.
Okay. Well, fuck. Absolutely, the Indian in the Cupboard. Okay, that's the last one. I promise that's the last one until next week.
That's next week for them.
Yeah, it's next week for them, and it's we're bumping these up, so it's a couple of minutes for you. Okay. No, I'm trying to pick one that they haven't done.
Could be Scorpion though. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
That'd
maybe.
be cool.
I like the idea of the Vulture from Homecoming, where he's just I'm just trying to fucking make a living, which is interesting. I like Dr. Octopus in its entirety as a character because he's so egotistical and such a dick about his abilities, but his power set is the arms and stuff. It's a good foil for Spider-Man because Spider-Man's so fucking agile. And he moves around and can do flips and all that stuff. If you've got 4 mechanical arms that can go in every direction, you're a huge threat to him because there's nowhere he can hide. So I'd say my favorite's probably Otto Octavius.
Nice. Mine would be Mysterio. As much as I like Goblin, that wouldn't be fair. That's why I kicked out Goblin, because everyone would go for Goblin then.
Of course.
But yeah, I would go Mysterio.
Okay. All right. I can dig that.
But have like a backstory with Peter and Quentin back there. Like, not just Mysterio pops out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That he doesn't.
The MCU style one is comes out of again out of an Iron Man thing. It's The in the comics, like I said before, he's a special effects artist, and uses that. The best use of the character was back in the early 90s. Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada worked on a run of the Daredevil comic series for the Marvel Knights imprint, which was launched all sort of the street level, more adult characters: Daredevil, Ghost Rider, the Punisher, Blade, and Kevin Smith, the screenwriter, and Joe Quesada, who's now the editor-in-chief at Marvel, but at the time he was an artist, ran this imprint with Jimmy Palmiotti, and they did a run, like a 12-issue run of Daredevil, where Daredevil's life just gets completely destroyed, completely torn down. Karen Page dies, and he faces all of his worst villains and his Catholicism, and by the end of it, he's completely wrecked, and it turns out it was Mysterio the whole time, just trying to prove himself to be a decent villain. And he's dying of cancer from all the fucking special effects makeup and gases that he's used over the time. It's really fucking good. It's called Guardian Devil. That's the series. You could probably buy it in a trade paperback, and I absolutely recommend it. It's also the best Daredevil art you'll ever see. It's pretty fucking amazing. Sorry, question number 3.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it. Thinking about something. I don't know.
That's all right.
To be clear, I wasn't zoning out on what you were saying. I was just thinking in the same way into what you were saying.
No, that's okay. It's just I talk a lot.
No, you don't. We have a podcast. Of course you talk.
It is a podcast. Yeah, it's not like people come here to hear silence. Yeah, that's totally fair. Unless you want to we'll change it to a meditation app. And you're slowly going to sleep now, and feel the tingling in your toes, and then walking up your shins is a very, very tiny, tiny, tiny Indian. And he's come out the cupboard. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm going to have to watch that movie just so I know what the fuck happened there. Walking up your shins towards your taint. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
What is question 4?
Question 3.
Question 3.
What are the chances to see Andrew Garfield back as Spider-Man at least one more time?
Like a percentage?
No, not percentage.
What are the chances?
What do you think? Yeah, what are the chances? Like, do we get to see him or no?
If they're gonna do it, they need to do it quick. Because he'd be close to 40 now. He might even be 40. I don't know. Hang on, I'll check and see how old he is. He can't be much younger than me if he is. Andrew Garfield. He's a year younger than me, so he's 39. So
well, aren't you 39?
Yeah, but he turns 39 in August. I turn 40 in November. So he's if they're going to do it, they need. I mean, he can play younger, obviously. Probably. I was watching The Rookie last night with Nathan Fillion, who plays mid-40s, and he's 52 or something. So you can do that, but I think they need to get on it quick. And I think the possibility is slim, because they have this whole Spider-Verse going on with Morbius, and even though that didn't do well, it's kind of ironic to like that movie now, which is funny because it's only come out so recently, and Venom 3 and all that stuff, and Craven. If they were going to do it, they probably would have done it already, or they would have greenlit it already. But I mean, keep using the hashtag, and we'll see what the fuck happens, because
yeah, I mean, we did get the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, exactly. And now is the time. People accept these, multiple universes, and that's mostly in part to Into the Spider-Verse kind of opened the door for that. Like, oh, hang on, we can do this. Flash is doing it now.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Yeah. Also, it's weird that when we because of Into the Spider-Verse, seeing all three Spider-Man and No Way Home, it was kind of normal. Like, imagine the shock value it would have been if we had that movie before Spider-Verse, but it also wouldn't work with it.
Nah, people wouldn't have accepted it. Like, what the fuck's this? They're different movies. But Spider-Verse is like, oh, okay, even though all these characters have not been introduced to me before, I understand that they all exist. And they've all existed in the comics before, but for just regular audiences, even Miles Morales at that point, to open that movie as a Miles story.
It's a baller move.
It is. It's a fucking baller move. And we'll get into that next week.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Now it's number 3.
Yeah, let me answer number 3 first.
Did you not?
No.
Oh, fuck. Raring to go.
Yeah. Chances are Andrew Garfield's coming back. I don't know. If he wants to, he will. If he doesn't want to, I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, that's okay too.
Yeah, we got closure, and that's all that matters. We got closure as fans of that franchise, which I don't know if it will ever be the same. Like after the film, like everyone wanted Multiverse of Madness to be like a cameo fest, like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, it has changed the landscape, and that it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But for the time being, we're all good.
Yeah. If it's, and you're like, the person who's asked the question says, or at least one more time, then again I would pitch a Miles Morales story with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man as Peter Parker there, and then at the end, Spider-Man dies and the second act he dies. Peter Parker dies in Miles Morales' arms. Yeah. I'm not leaving that image. I am not leaving that image.
No, it's super strong thematically, and heroes die. They just do. I'd absolutely.
All right. Okay. Question 4: character ranking for both movies. Character ranking. All of them?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, how is it? Okay. Well, I mean, if
let's do top 3 or top 5.
Yeah. Okay, but you can't include Spider-Man because it's too easy.
Yeah. It's a Spider-Man. What the fuck are you saying?
But of course, like, if you're gonna, who's the best character in the Spider-Man movie? Probably Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So
okay. I get you.
Who are the most interesting 3 characters in the two pictures outside of Spider-Man? You go first.
Okay. So top 3 for the first one will be Dr. Connors, Uncle Ben, because I love Martin Sheen's Uncle Ben more than Toby's Uncle Ben, and Gwen.
Okay.
What?
Yep. I will say I'll buck the trend a little bit. The teacher who tells this is number 3. The teacher who tells Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker not to skate in the halls.
Yeah.
Because it's dangerous, Peter. Just, grow the fuck up. And I also enjoy the robber who throws him the chocolate milk, who then accidentally kills Uncle Ben. He doesn't accidentally do it, he shoots him. And the spider who bites Peter. Because cheers.
I'm not taking this seriously. What the fuck?
I'm just trying to be different. Just trying to be interesting.
Awesome. Yeah.
Keep everyone guessing.
Yeah. For the second one, I will go with Felicia Hardy, because we talked about her a lot today. Mm-hmm. So Felicia Hardy. The kid that he saves from bullying. And Gwen Stacy again.
Yeah. Gwen did meet Stacy. And for me, It is. Sorry, it was a bit harsh. For me, it is Paul Giamatti pre-rhino costume.
The tattoo on the forehead.
Yep, so good. The barbed wire. Number 2 is the ghost of Dennis Leary. He keep popping up and ruin dim sum dinners. And number 1 is it's multiple characters, and it's all of the eels that give Electro his powers. Each
one sentient being.
Each individual unagi that you've got in there. Oh no, unagi, they're freshwater eels. I don't know if they were freshwater eels or saltwater eels. I think they might have been saltwater eels, but
yeah, because they're generating electricity for the whole fucking building.
Yeah, that's right. Good on them. Just doing their job. Then some guy falls in. Hey, we're going to zap you. We're going to zap you.
No, they don't zap him. They're very kind. They fix his gap in the teeth. Very kind.
Weird. Fucking weird. I don't know what's... I mean, because that's the prototypical, kind of nerdy pre-bad guy who becomes a bad guy supervillain. They've just done it recently in Wonder Woman 1984 with the cheetah character. They did it in Batman Returns with the Riddler. It's just this thing. It's just this trope that they do. I don't know how getting electrocuted fixes your teeth, but then again, I've never been electrocuted, so maybe I should give it a try and then have really nice. All my fronts will be lovely.
Please don't. I like you. I like you the way you are.
I'm about to put a knife into the toaster, and Emily's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I want to fix my teeth, babe." She'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about? That sentence doesn't even make sense." I'm like, "Have you seen Amazing Spider-Man 2?" She'd be like, "Yeah, but that has nothing to do with teeth," because she wouldn't understand because she's not part of this conversation. What's the last question, Addie? I'm starting to lose my mind. It's about round about now. It happens every episode. I've been talking too much. There's not enough oxygen in my brain. Start talking about Indians and cupboards and killing myself with toasters.
I was trying to read the question so you don't bring that up again, but the fucking bitch.
It's impossible. It's going to come up. It's going to keep coming up.
Okay. Last question for this episode. Sorry. Favorite scene of both the films. So I guess one scene from each film.
Okay. Yeah.
We're gonna agree on one, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Let me say for like an emotional scene, like an emotional beat. Peter, the death of Captain Stacy, when he screams the primal scream into the night, it's really muted, is super powerful. And as an action beat, the fight in the school with Lizard and how he crawls around him like a spider. That's the thing. He's got all these spider-like attributes that they don't have in, like, they put him all these really wicked positions like the comic and have him kind of behave spider-like. He's a lot faster, I find, and uses his powers in more interesting ways than the original ones. Maybe
he uses all his limbs.
Yeah, he's real gangly too. Like, I like the lean Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire's quite short and stocky, but Andrew Garfield's lean and slick looking. Much more like the Steve Ditko design. Just fucking super cool. So, sorry, what are your ones for the first picture?
All right. So sorry.
That's all right. Something happened. A little fright there.
Yeah, that was the door. Fuck. Anyway, there's again. This is where I'll be around. Fuck this. Because there's a teaser where it's the one person shot of Spider-Man just swinging, and then he comes up in the reflection, and that's the first reveal. But in the film, it's all like chopped up, like Connor's hand.
Ooh, fucking burn, mate. Poor Dr. Connors and his not being real. Yeah, no, that actual scene, like, because it's the first Spider-Man film that was released in 3D. It came out at the time when 3D was super popular. And that, yeah, the POV, I don't know how they've never tried that before, but then, yeah, him landing on the building and seeing his own reflection. Super cool.
Yeah, and the second one for that film would be yeah, the first conversation with Gwen and Peter, where it's just there's no words. It's just them talking with.
They can't.
Yeah,
They're so awkward with each other, and it's so cute and sexy at the same time. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. For the second The Rise of Electro, probably the opening of him, like the fall from the sky and then swinging through. What have you got for me today, New York? All right, let's go to work. Super fucking cool as an action beat and as a story beat, like an emotional beat. Probably where he's like doing the insane person, like mapping things out on the tape and all that stuff, and putting the picture of Gwen up, and then his parents like, what does this mean? Why is this here? How is Oscorp connected? That kind of like the detective-y kind of scene is pretty cool, and I dig that song as well. So yeah.
For me, like that whole the whole transition to Spider-Man's logo and then him with this suit with the same logo, that's like it's holy grail. It's holy grail comic book films. But it's also, it starts with the bell towering, which is what the fuck. That's the second foreshadowing in the first
I fucking stuck it in there, man. It's only when you watch it after a few times, you're like, hold on. So it's working on a few levels. But I mean, that falling shot is one of the best shots in a Spider-Man movie of all time. And the rippling of the costume, like that detail, like the atmospherics affecting the motion is something that you don't see in these new ones, honestly.
Like the MCU suit, it's skin, like it's all like you can see like the collarbones and everything there.
Yeah.
In this one, it's not like when they were designing that suit and that scene, because it's CG, they shot it, and like Andrew Garfield, when he was falling, he couldn't because when you see it, his like all of his body is just straight and he's falling down straight, but he couldn't keep his feet straight, so they had to tie him up, so that's why it's straight, but then they did with full CG again. That's why the ripples are there, and it sells it. Like, of course, when you wear a Spider-Man suit, it's not going to be like fully fitted, so there's going to be space, plus you need air to fucking breathe in it.
Otherwise you're just fucking marinating in there and shit, and you need to be cut out of it like Catwoman in the 90s. But it's I mean, those little things are the things that sell it. Motion, atmospherics, inertia. When you watch that scene I didn't see. I did see the second one at the cinemas, but I didn't see it in 3D. But just on the big screen again at the Astor a couple of weeks ago, it gave me vertigo for a second. Like just that drop, like feeling the drop was super powerful. And it's little things like that, realities that you give it in these insane worlds that make it believable. So,
which Spider-Man in your eyes has been typecast the most among the three who have played it? And which one of the Spider-Man solo movies do you like the most? I think we answered that in the podcast itself.
Yeah, I'd say for me, my favorite is the first Amazing Spider-Man. Is it the most technically proficient? I don't know. It's the one I like the most for my personal tastes. Who do I feel has been typecast?
Yeah.
As in are only getting the same roles post playing Spider-Man? Tom Holland.
I think it's Tom, right? Yeah,
because he's only doing. I mean, he's tried to do a few little things like
he did Sherry and
Sherry and
one other thing.
The Devil. Something.
Yeah, the Devil at All Times, and he was part of. But this was like way before his height for Spider-Man started. Like, he did. I think it was like 2017 that he did Homecoming, and then in the same year there was a film scheduled to come out called The Current War, which was about Thomas Edison and Hemingway. If that's not the name, I will fucking die.
No, it wasn't Hemingway. No, it was Edison.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
it was Edison and somebody else.
Hemingway,
yeah, sorry.
Hemingway is a writer.
Yes, I am so sorry.
No, that's all right. Yeah, no, that movie did come out.
It came out in 2020, but yeah, he's in that one also. But like when you see him there, you're like, oh, this is pre-Spider-Man Tom. Like right before, like right after he got the film but hadn't shot yet.
Mm.
And it's Benedict Cumberbatch and Tom Holland again. So, yeah.
Yeah, and now he's sort of, he's got that and the Uncharted, Chaos Walking, these kind of like
blockbuster.
I think he has a lot of potential to be a dramatic actor. I quite like Cherry. I know that people kind of didn't dig on that film. It was a strange role for him because he looks quite young for someone who would play a drug-addled war vet. But yeah, he does have a lot more opportunity. But he is currently like a blockbuster darling. That movie, The Current War, was about the electricity race between Thomas Edison and George Westinghouse.
Yes.
Played by Benedict Cumberbatch and Michael Shannon. So, but yeah, that's absolutely the truth. I think Toby he's very sporadic in what he likes to do. He doesn't done heaps of stuff. He was in the Baz Luhrmann picture, The Great Gatsby, a couple of other sort of little things in between Spider-Man and here, but not heaps of stuff.
I've only seen Toby in the Spider-Man movies and Brothers, which is Jake Gyllenhaal and Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, that was post, or at least post one of most of the Spider-Mans. But yeah, I think Andrew Garfield has the most range, and he's the one whose career bounced back. He did a few small things, and then started coming back with some big work and some big. Yeah. His smaller stuff is really interesting. Under the Silver.
Agreed.
Is a really interesting film. And 99 Homes. He's the most talented actor. Absolutely.
Agreed. The second part of the question is, which of the solo movies are your favorite out of the Andrew Garfield one, Toby's and Tom's? So out of the duology of Andrew and trilogy of Toby and Tom.
Right. The second Spider-Man picture of the Toby ones is my favorite. The first Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, is my favorite out of that. And even though I really like No Way Home, I think just as a Spider-Man story, Homecoming is the stronger picture.
Yeah, I like Spider-Man 3 from Tobey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Spider-Man 3 from Tobey. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I love TASM. I love The Amazing Spider-Man 1, but The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has that opening and nothing else can come over that. So
yeah, totally fair.
I think I've told you this before that I had little to no hope for No Way Home. I went in only for Andrew Garfield. So yeah, No Way Home. Yep.
All fine reasoning, sir.
What if the director of the Spider-Man films was switched and Raimi worked with Tom, Andrew worked with John Watts, and Tobey worked with Mark Webb? How do you think those films would have come out, and which of the Spider-Man films would have been wasted, and which of the Spider-Man films would have been better? That's a very interesting question.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I'm gonna say that whoever Andrew worked with, you would have got a performance out of him, and you also wonder if you're working with those scripts. So if it's the same scripts, that's a really big difference. Someone comes along and directs the middle two pictures with Andrew Garfield who isn't Mark Webb. It's not a huge difference unless it's someone like Sam Raimi who does have a lot of style. And the same as John Watts. He's a very competent director, surely, and very competent action director at this point, but he's inside the Marvel system. I'd be interested to see what he does outside of that, because I know he did a film called Cop Car that was quite good, but I never saw it myself, and just it reportedly is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna say Andrews would still be the strongest purely based on his performance, but I'd be really interested to see Sam Raimi direct him and see how goofy they get with it.
Yeah, when he said that he wants to direct Tom in any way, has he? I think he said he's a fan of the films, but yeah, it would be interesting to see a multiverse where Tom's directed by Sam Raimi.
Yeah, okay. And he's like, because then he would be, Sam Raimi would be inside the Marvel system as well, and we've seen we see what he has the ability to do. Like Doctor Strange was well put together, the sequel to Doctor Strange. So, yeah, what does that look like?
It's not Sam Raimi and his style of filmmaking that brought the film down. It was kind of the whole machine of Marvel and the expectations of what came before and what could be that brought the film down hugely. But yeah,
it's the most film by committee that they've done. You know, it's trying to hit everything and missing most of it because it's trying to hit everything. You just got to wait. You got to wait for the right swing. Wait for the right ball to come at you.
It's weird because I'm gonna
Raimi behind those Spider-Man pictures, and it's a different vibe. Be much goofier.
Yeah, but like, I mean, you give Sam Raimi Tom Holland, and like the atmosphere that the first three films were in, because he didn't really get that. Like, the Tobey films were the way that they were, but it weren't exactly how you wanted, right? Because you wanted he wanted a high schooler, and Tommy wasn't a high schooler, was he? Nor were any of the characters that like any of the actors.
Yeah.
But like, it would be interesting to see what he would do in a Peter Parker story in that setting.
Yeah.
And if I wholeheartedly agree that I wholeheartedly say that if Mark Webb did the Tobey films, he would, like, those films would have had the best Spider-Man swinging scenes of all time. I think that would be lost, and I don't want to see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man with not the amazing amount of swinging that was in that film.
A lot of locked off shots, I would say. Yeah, I mean, maybe now, you know, different times you can do different things with cameras and CG and everything, so they kind of live in their time periods too. But
if we do switch the circumstances, or like we just switch the directors and the actors, but we have the same circumstances in this universe, we would have a trilogy of Andrew Garfield's films, and we'd have a duology of Tobey films.
Yeah. Do you do that? What's the sacrifice you make? We'll have to sleep on that, I think.
Yeah, it's like I said. I said that's a very interesting question, but like, for me, like, even though Into the Spider-Verse is a perfect film, it's also a starting point of Spider-Man. Like when that film ends, he's like, oh, I cannot wait to see where we go next with Miles. Yeah. Right? Whereas the reason why The Amazing Spider-Man 2 feels like perfect, or like to me is a perfect Spider-Man film, is like, you have the cool, amazing scenes. You have the swinging scenes. You have the angsty teenager. You have the romance. But you also have the sacrifice. And not to take away or to say that Miles did not sacrifice anything. But it's just that brings the Amazing Spider-Man sacrifice and the ultimate cause and effect of those films. Just, it rings more than the Prowler being Miles' uncle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally get it. Was that it? Was that the last one?
That's it. That's it for...
What was your emotional beat, though?
Oh, fuck. Isn't it obvious?
Is it the end? Where he's like...
Yeah.
You can't be with your mum. You take care of your mum, and I'm going to take care of this jerk. Fucking, or whatever he says. It's super cool.
No, it's not that. It's Gwen dying.
Oh, yeah. That's
when I say it, yeah.
Quite emotional. Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, folks, thanks for coming back and enjoying part 2. Well, I hope you enjoyed it anyway. I know we talked about Indian in the Cupboard a lot, but and me raging about Batman Returns plot holes, but Batman Forever's plot holes, rather. But here we are at the very end. Please do go back and check these pictures out again and enjoy them. And we'll be back next week to chat a real oddity in terms of its success. I feel this movie just kind of came out of nowhere, Into the Spider-Verse. won a fucking Oscar and changed the course of the Spider-Man trajectory. Absolutely. But in the meantime, please, wherever you get the podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, write and review. It does help the profile of the show, bring more people here to talk about crazy Spider-Man pictures. And Addie, you're gorgeous, mate. I love you. And we will be back next week.
You are amazing, sir. And everyone who's listening is amazing. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in again. This was kind of like, it went better than I would have imagined, because I imagined me fucking crying in
I was going to say, I'm surprised you didn't cry at any point, but hey,
yes.
Maybe later tonight.
But anyway, thank you so much. Stay amazing and stay safe.